Amaka had given up on love. At 40 years old, she was a successful teacher, but her personal life was a different story. All of her friends were married, including her younger sisters. Everyone laughed at Amaka, wondering why no man would marry her. Despite her tall, beautiful stature, Amaka felt like a laughingstock. Every week, she would attend either a friend's or family member's wedding, watching as they exchanged vows and began their new lives together. Amaka would cry profusely, feeling like she was the only one left behind. One day Amaka met Steve. He was charming, handsome, and every woman's dream. Steve showered Amaka with gifts and attention, treating her like a queen. Amaka's friends and family were overjoyed, urging her to marry Steve. Despite her initial reservations, Amaka gave in to peer pressure. She convinced herself that she was too old to be picky, and that Steve was the best she could get. So they got married. At first Steve seemed perfect. He continued to spoil Amaka, taking her on romantic getaways and buying her expensive jewelry. But as time went on, Amaka began to notice a change in Steve's behavior. He became increasingly critical, finding fault in everything she did. He would argue with her over minor things, making her feel belittled and unappreciated. Steve also started giving Amaka odd jobs to do around the house, treating her like a servant rather than a partner. Amaka was devastated. She had thought she had found her happily ever after, but instead she felt trapped in a loveless marriage. She cried herself to sleep every night, wondering how she had made such a mistake. When Amaka complained to her parents, they told her to endure. "You're 40 years old, Amaka," they said. "Who will marry you at your age? You should be grateful to have a husband." Amaka felt like she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. She didn't want to be alone, but she also didn't want to be treated like a doormat. So she stayed in the marriage, enduring Steve's abuse for years. But as the years went by, Amaka began to realize that she deserved better. She started to see that Steve's behavior was not normal, and that she didn't have to settle for a loveless marriage. With newfound courage, Amaka started to make plans to leave Steve. It wouldn't be easy, but she knew it was necessary. She deserved to be happy, and she was determined to find her own happily ever after. Amaka started by secretly saving money and looking for a new place to live. She knew it wouldn't be easy to leave Steve, but she was determined to take control of her life. As she made her plans, Amaka couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and liberation. She was finally taking steps to free herself from the toxic marriage that had held her back for so long. But just as Amaka was about to make her move, Steve discovered her plans. He was furious and he confronted Amaka in a fit of rage. "How could you do this to me?" Steve shouted, his face red with anger. "I've given you everything, and this is how you repay me?" Amaka stood her ground, refusing to back down. "I deserve better than to be treated like a servant," she said, her voice firm. "I deserve to be loved and respected." Steve's anger turned to shock, and he stared at Amaka in disbelief. He had never seen her stand up to him like that before. For a moment, Amaka thought she saw a glimmer of regret in Steve's eyes. But it was quickly replaced by his usual arrogance. "You'll never make it on your own," Steve sneered. "You're nothing without me." Amaka smiled, feeling a sense of freedom wash over her. "I'll take my chances," she said, and with that she walked out the door, leaving Steve and her old life behind. As she stepped into the bright sunlight, Amaka felt a sense of hope and possibility that she hadn't felt in years. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to start her new life on innovation. Amaka took a deep breath, feeling the warm sun on her skin. She closed her eyes, letting the stress and anxiety of the past few years melt away. As she walked away from the house, Amaka felt a sense of liberation wash over her. She was finally free from the toxic marriage that had held her back for so long. She made her way to a small cafe on the outskirts of town, where she had arranged to meet a friend. As she sat down at a table, her friend, Nneoma, rushed over to hug her. "I'm so proud of you, Amaka," Nneoma said, tears in her eyes. "You deserve so much better than Steve." Amaka smiled, feeling grateful for her friend's support. "I know," she said. "I just wish I had done it sooner." Nneoma nodded. "You did it when you were ready," she said. "And now you can start fresh." Amaka took a deep breath, feeling a sense of excitement and possibility. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to start her new life. Over coffee, Amaka and Nneoma made plans for Amaka's future. They talked about finding a new place to live, starting a new job, and rebuilding Amaka's life. As they talked, Amaka felt a sense of hope and optimism that she hadn't felt in years. She knew she still had a long way to go, but she was ready to take the first step. With Nneoma's support, Amaka started to rebuild her life. She found a new apartment, started a new job, and slowly began to rediscover herself. It wasn't easy, and there were still days when Amaka felt overwhelmed and alone. But with each passing day she grew stronger and more confident. And as she looked in the mirror, Amaka saw a woman she hadn't seen in years, a woman who was strong, resilient, and beautiful. Here's the continuation. As Amaka continued to rebuild her life, she began to realize that she had been living in a state of emotional numbness for years. She had been so focused on surviving her toxic marriage that she had forgotten how to truly live. But now, as she started to rediscover herself, Amaka felt a sense of excitement and wonder. She started to explore new hobbies, try new foods, and connect with new people. One day, while out on a walk, Amaka stumbled upon a small art studio. She had always been fascinated by art, but had never had the time to pursue it. On a whim, she decided to sign up for a class. As she sat down at her easel, Amaka felt a sense of calm wash over her. She dipped her brush in paint and began to create, losing herself in the process. For the first time in years, Amaka felt truly alive. She felt like she had finally found a part of herself that she thought was lost forever. As the class came to a close, Amaka felt a sense of sadness wash over her. She didn't want the feeling to end. But as she looked around the studio, she saw the instructor, a kind-eyed man with a warm smile, packing up his things. "Thank you for the class," Amaka said, approaching him. "I felt truly alive for the first time in years." The instructor smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "That's the power of art," he said. "It has a way of awakening something deep within us." Amaka nodded, feeling a sense of connection to this stranger. "I think I need more of that in my life," she said. The instructor smiled again. "I think that can be arranged," he said, handing her a card. "My name is Max, by the way." Amaka took the card, feeling a spark of electricity run through her body. "I'm Amaka," she said, smiling up at him. As they parted ways, Amaka couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and possibility. She had no idea what the future held, but she was ready to take on whatever came next. Here's the continuation. Amaka couldn't stop thinking about Max in the art class. She had never felt such a strong connection with someone before, and she couldn't help but wonder if it was more than just a coincidence. As she walked home, Amaka found herself smiling, feeling a sense of lightness that she hadn't felt in years. She felt like she had finally found something that brought her joy, something that made her feel alive. When she got home, Amaka couldn't wait to tell Nneoma about her experience. She called her friend and told her everything from the art class to the instructor, Max. Nneoma listened, oohing and ahhing in all the right places. "Amaka, this sounds amazing," she said. "You have to go back to that class." Amaka laughed. "I'm already planning on it," she said. The next day, Amaka returned to the art studio, eager to see Max again. As she walked in, she saw him setting up for the next class. "Welcome back," he said, smiling at her. "I'm glad you decided to come back." Amaka smiled, feeling a sense of nervousness. "I couldn't stay away," she said. As the class began, Amaka found herself feeling more and more at ease. Max was a great instructor, and she found herself learning and growing with each passing minute. But it was more than just the art that drew Amaka in. It was Max himself, with his kind eyes and warm smile. She found herself feeling a strong connection to him, one that went beyond just a teacher-student relationship. As the class came to a close, Max approached Amaka. "You're really talented," he said. "I think you should keep pursuing art."
Amaka smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "Thank you," she said. "I think I will." Max smiled back, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I'm glad to hear that," he said. "Maybe I'll see you around sometime." Amaka's heart skipped a beat as she smiled back at him. "I'd like that," she said. As they parted ways, Amaka couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and possibility. She had no idea what the future held, but she was ready to take on whatever came next. As Amaka walked home, she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and possibility. She had no idea what the future held, but she was ready to take on whatever came next. Over the next few weeks, Amaka continued to attend Max's art classes. She found herself looking forward to the classes more and more, not just because of the art, but because of the chance to see Max. As they spent more time together, Amaka found herself feeling a strong connection to Max. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but there was something about him that made her feel seen and understood. One day, as they were packing up the art supplies, Max turned to Amaka and said, "Would you like to grab a cup of coffee with me? I'd love to get to know you better." Amaka's heart skipped a beat as she smiled and nodded. "I'd love to," she said. As they walked to the coffee shop, Amaka couldn't help but feel a sense of nervous excitement. She had no idea what the future held, but she was ready to take a chance. Over coffee, Max and Amaka talked for hours, sharing stories and laughter. Amaka found herself feeling more and more at ease, like she had known Max for years. As the sun began to set, Max walked Amaka home, his arm brushing against hers. Amaka felt a spark of electricity run through her body, and she knew that she was in trouble. As they stood outside her apartment, Max turned to Amaka and said, "I had a wonderful time tonight. Would you like to do it again sometime?" Amaka smiled, her heart racing with excitement. "I'd love to," she said. As Max leaned in to kiss her, Amaka felt like she was melting into his arms. She knew that she had found someone special, someone who made her feel alive. And as they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Amaka knew that she was ready to take a chance on love again. Here's the continuation. As the days turned into weeks, Amaka and Max's relationship continued to blossom. They spent every spare moment together, exploring the city, trying new restaurants, and laughing until their sides hurt. Amaka had never felt this way about anyone before. She had thought she was too old for romance, too set in her ways. But Max had awakened something in her, something she thought was long dead. As they sat on the couch in Amaka's apartment, watching the sunset through the window, Max turned to her and said, "I have to tell you something." Amaka's heart skipped a beat as she looked at him, wondering what he was going to say. "I think I might be falling in love with you," Max said, his voice barely above a whisper. Amaka's heart soared as she smiled, feeling like she was walking on air. "I think I might be falling in love with you too," she said. As they leaned in to kiss, Amaka felt like she was home. She had found her soulmate, her partner, her best friend. But as they pulled back, Amaka's mind began to wander. She thought about Steve, her ex-husband, and the pain he had caused her. She thought about the fear she had felt, the anxiety that had gripped her. Max saw the look on her face and took her hand. "What's wrong?" he asked. Amaka took a deep breath, trying to process her emotions. "I'm just scared," she said. "I'm scared of getting hurt again." Max's face softened, and he pulled her into his arms. "I'll never hurt you," he said. "I promise." As Amaka looked into his eyes, she knew that she could trust him. She knew that he was different from Steve, that he was kind and gentle and loving. And as they held each other, Amaka felt like she was finally home. She had found her happily ever after, and she was never letting it go. As the days turned into weeks, Amaka and Max's relationship continued to grow stronger. They went on romantic getaways, tried new hobbies together, and explored the city like tourists. Amaka had never felt so alive, so happy. She had thought she was too old for love, too set in her ways. But Max had proven her wrong. One day, as they were walking through the park, Max turned to Amaka and said, "I have a surprise for you." Amaka's eyes lit up with excitement. "What is it?" she asked. Max smiled mischievously. "You'll have to wait and see," he said. Amaka playfully rolled her eyes. "You're such a tease," she said. Max chuckled. "I'm just trying to keep things interesting," he said. As they continued walking, Amaka couldn't help but feel grateful for Max. He had brought so much joy and love into her life, and she didn't know what she would do without him. After a while, Max stopped in front of a beautiful little cottage. "Welcome to our new home," he said, sweeping his arm dramatically. Amaka's eyes widened in surprise. "Our new home," she repeated. Max nodded. "I bought this cottage for us," he said. "I want us to start a new life together." Amaka felt like she was dreaming. She had never imagined that Max would do something so romantic, so thoughtful. As she looked at the cottage, Amaka felt a sense of excitement and possibility. She knew that this was just the beginning of their new life together, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held. "Thank you," she said, turning to Max with tears in her eyes. Thank you for loving me. Max smiled, pulling her into his arms. I'll always love you, he said. Forever and always. As they hugged, Amaka knew that she had found her soulmate, her partner, her best friend. She knew that she would never let him go. They hugged. Amaka felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that she had found her forever home, not just in the beautiful little cottage, but in Max's arms. I love you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Max pulled back, looking into her eyes. I love you too, he said, his voice filled with emotion. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Amaka knew that she had finally found her happily ever after. She had found a man who loved her for who she was, flaws and all. Over the next few weeks, Amaka and Max settled into their new life together. They spent their days exploring the city, trying new restaurants and laughing together. Amaka had never felt so alive, so happy. She had thought she was too old for love, too set in her ways. But Max had proven her wrong. One day, as they were sitting on the couch watching the sunset, Max turned to Amaka and said, I have one more surprise for you. Amaka's eyes lit up with excitement. What is it? She asked. Max smiled mischievously. You'll have to wait and see, he said. Amaka playfully rolled her eyes. You're such a tease, she said. Max chuckled. I'm just trying to keep things interesting, he said. As they sat there, waiting for the surprise, Amaka couldn't help but feel grateful for Max. He had brought so much joy and love into her life, and she didn't know what she would do without him. After a few minutes, Max got up and walked over to the door. Close your eyes, he said. Amaka closed her eyes, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation. When she opened her eyes, she saw Max standing in front of her, holding a small box. Will you marry me? He asked, his voice trembling with emotion. Amaka's eyes widened in shock, and she felt tears streaming down her face. Yes, yes, 1,000,000 times yes, she exclaimed. As Max placed the ring on her finger, Amaka knew that she had found her forever love. She had found a man who loved her for who she was, flaws and all. And as they hugged, Amaka knew that she would never let him go. She had found her soulmate, her partner, her best friend. As they hugged, Amaka felt a sense of joy and happiness that she had never felt before. She had thought she was too old for love, too set in her ways. But Max had proven her wrong. I love you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Max pulled back, looking into her eyes. I love you too, he said, his voice filled with emotion. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Amaka knew that she had finally found her happily ever after. She had found a man who loved her for who she was, flaws and all. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as Amaka and Max planned their wedding. They decided on a small, intimate ceremony with just close friends and family. As the big day approached, Amaka felt a sense of excitement and nervousness. She had never imagined that she would get married again, but here she was, about to embark on a new journey with the love of her life. On the day of the wedding, Amaka woke up feeling like a princess. She put on her beautiful white dress, her hair styled perfectly, and her makeup done just right. As she walked down the aisle, she saw Max standing at the altar, looking handsome and dashing in his tuxedo. She felt a sense of joy and happiness wash over her as she realized that she was about to spend the rest of her life with this amazing man. The ceremony was beautiful, with tears of joy streaming down Amaka's face as Max promised to love and cherish her for the rest of their lives. As they exchanged their vows and sealed their love with a kiss, Amaka knew that she had found her forever love. She had found a man who loved her for who she was, flaws and all. And as they danced at the reception, surrounded by their loved ones, Amaka knew that she would never let Max go. She had found her soulmate, her partner, her best friend. Years went by, and Amaka and Max lived happily ever after. They traveled the world, built a beautiful home, and started a family. Through it all, their love remained strong and true. They continued to support and cherish each other, and their bond grew deeper with each passing day. And as they sat on their porch, holding hands and watching the sunset, Amaka knew that she had found her forever home, not just in the beautiful house they had built, but in Max. Watching the sunset, Amaka felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over her. She had never imagined that she would find happiness again after her divorce, but Max had proven her wrong. "I'm so grateful for you," Amaka said, turning to Max with tears in her eyes. Max smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I'm grateful for you too," he said. "You're the love of my life, Amaka." Amaka's heart swelled with emotion as she leaned in to kiss Max. As their lips touched, she felt a spark of electricity run through her body, reminding her of the passion and love they shared. As they pulled back, Amaka smiled up at Max. "I love you," she said. Max smiled back, his eyes shining with love. "I love you too," he said. And as they sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, Amaka knew that she had found her forever love. She had found a man who loved her for who she was, flaws and all. Years turned into decades, and Amaka and Max grew old together. They traveled the world, spoiling their grandkids, and enjoying every moment of their golden years. But even as their bodies grew frail, their love remained strong. They continued to hold hands, to kiss, and to cherish each other. And as they sat on their porch, watching the sunset one last time, Amaka turned to Max with tears in her eyes. "I'm so grateful for our life together," she said. Max smiled, his eyes cloudy with age. "Me too, my love," he said. "Me too." And with that, they shared one last kiss, their hearts full of love and gratitude for the life they had built together. Then,